Hello, guys. David Vos here. Wow, it's still raining. It's still cloudy and gloomy, damp. It's been damp every day for weeks and weeks. And, I prefer the sunshine in a drier kind of climate. But at the same time, when you go out west and it's a little drier, and then you still have to deal with the harsh cold in the winter. But I don't think there's any place that's perfect. I mean, you could go to Hawaii or somewhere in the tropics where the temperature's always the same. And I haven't actually lived in a place like that, so I can't really say, but I would suspect that that wouldn't be ideal for me either, because I like change. I don't always want to walk outside and, whoo, it's all green, and that's kind of damp too, because I suppose it rains and there's a lot of dew, and I like the dryness sometimes, just to be able to lay on a rock and absorb the sun and the changing of seasons and things. So I don't think there's any perfection, because, and this is a good point. I didn't even think about what I was going to say when I started this. Hope you're having a wonderful day where you guys are. But that's a good philosophical point, and maybe it will be a good prelude to what we're going to talk about today, because what is the right path? What is the perfect world? What is paradise? Is it a place where the temperatures are perfect? No, because we like change. Many of us. But, so in a place where there's sunshine and it's warm and you can lay out on a rock and you feel good, then you're going to have some of that. It's great, but then you're going to also have winter. And then there's going to be some harsh climate. And you're going to have to go through the good and the bad. So what would be better? A place where you could have to go through both good and bad, but the good is really good, and the bad is really bad. But you get this wonderful good, the blessing of just the most amazing highs, but you still got to go through some lows. Or a place where you didn't never have to go through pain, never had to go through any lows, but you never got those highs. You never got that thrill. You never got to just absorb the sun on a rock and, anywhere in the world you're going to have highs and lows. I'm not saying there's any place where, but let's say you could go somewhere where it was always, whatever temperature is perfect, I don't know, 70 or whatever it would be. And you didn't have to ever put on clothes or build a fire. You didn't have to really do anything. What would happen probably is you'd just lay on the ground and die, because you wouldn't have to do anything. You wouldn't have to chop wood for the fire, prepare for the winter. There was always food growing. You wouldn't have to harvest. You just reach up and pick a fruit. And that's the paradise that we imagined is perfect, where we could just rest. But I think in the Bible, the rest that mankind's going to go through for 1,000 years, where we all are in this place where there's no more pain and sorrow, I think that's why it is only going to be for 1,000 years. Because once we get rested, maybe it will take 1,000 years after we've been through millions of years of progression and pain, and we learn by the things that we suffer. So we've gone through all this, and now we gain the victory, we get the prize, we get the crown, and we're like, yay! Okay, now let's just take it all in and enjoy it. Well, at some point, we're just laying around going, hey, this is nice, man. This is paradise. We don't have any problems. And okay, but I'm kind of getting bored now. At some point, I think everybody wants an adventure. And an adventure is, you don't know what to expect. You're surprised. Well, what's over that hill? We don't know. Well, I want to go see. I want to go see what's over the hill. Why? It's an adventure. What? Well, Dave, what if there's bears and lions and tigers and you die? What if the struggle of climbing that mountain is too much for you to bear and you can't make it and you wear out? What if you fall off a cliff? All right, well, there's lots of risks. And the neat thing about human beings, I think ultimately the real being, is that it can never die, but we like to live in the illusion that there's a risk. There really is no risk because we're immortal. But if we lived in that immortal world, in that perfect place like Hawaii, we might get bored. So sometimes we like to go back to the States and go hiking, maybe climb Mount Everest or what. We want adventure. Sometimes we want to go to the desert, but hey, we can't stay there too long because the desert, if we don't have enough water, we could die. But we take the risk because we want to see the desert. We want to see the mountains. We want to see the ocean. What if we can't swim and our boat sinks? Well, we take the risk because ultimately we know that it's worth it because progression or learning is the real goal here. So now I have a question for you. Let's go back to the Garden of Eden. This is a perfect segue to what we're going to talk about today, because I'm trying to understand how I'm going to be able to say this to people, because I'm about to share something with you guys that is a huge revelation for me. I've been laboring under a false concept for years, and it's killing me. Now, why did I labor under this false idea for years? It's a little bit like the one that we talked about the other day, where I spent years trying to understand whether we're under law or not. It was a philosophy. It was something I couldn't grasp. Good and bad. I know I shouldn't be bad, right? So how could I say it's okay to murder and lie and steal? So therefore I must be under these laws. I shouldn't do them, of course. But yet, what if I'm not free? And I'm a subject of the country, and they come in with armies and just demand that I do this, that, and the other thing. Well, then you have the idea that, well, maybe freedom is good, but except for in these areas. You have the right to do everything you want. Look, in the end, we all have the right to do anything, even murder, as long as we're willing to accept the consequences. If we get caught, we're going to die. But it's our freedom. And if we're always free, which is what the Lord has given everyone, because everyone that's born in the world can really actually do anything they want, including bad things. That's why there is bad things in the world. And we wouldn't want the world any other way, would we? Let's say that we go back. So I'm going to tell you this because I'm trying to share this with people, because there's going to be a portion of my subscribers that are not going to like this. Just like there's somebody suggested the other day that because I believed in Jesus and I'm talking about the Bible being true, maybe that's why I'm losing subscribers. Well, you know what? I don't care because, I don't want to lose subscribers, but hey, if the entire world becomes apostate and no longer wants to hear the truth, well, I still have to go towards the truth. That's my agenda. I will be honest, and I will declare what I believe is true, even if some of you don't like it or don't agree. So I'm going to share another truth with you that I did kind of waffle, a few months ago, and I came out, but I still hadn't fully developed a complete understanding, and therefore I didn't know what to do. And all of my subscribers, many of them are probably didn't like what I was saying, and I was like, and I had to rethink it. And, I caved, just like when I spent years trying to figure out whether we're under law or not under law. It's a philosophical thing that's probably one of the most difficult things to come to grips with. So I could just go ahead and tell you what I've learned and lay it out. But I think that regardless of how clear I make this video, how much evidence I give all of you, I could give you a verse in the Bible that says what I'm saying verbatim. It doesn't matter. I've already done this. A couple of people privately. And people who believe the opposite will not accept, because it's like they just can't conceive. They can't open their eyes enough to grasp a deep, deep philosophical truth. Even though they believe they're the ones that already have the truth. It's weird. So as I started this video today, I wanted to do this in such a way that I could find some parable or some story or concept that I could throw out there and sneak it in on you, so that you would be able to open your mind, not knowing it was coming, open yourselves up so that you wouldn't just reject it. Because many of you are going to reject it, if I just flat out tell you. And I might lose some more subscribers. I probably will. But I tell you, I've come to a revelation on this. Hear me out. So before I just lay it out there, this concept that I'm going to lay out on you, look, a lot of you are going to agree with me. You're going to be happy that I've changed, that I've found this truth, that you weren't quite sure why, but you just couldn't, you might be glad to find out. Let's say that you're a sinner and you find out that, the Lord still loves you. You'll be glad. Even if everybody's been pointing the finger and ridiculing you and hating you and telling you you're worthless, and they showed you scriptures that says, see right there, you're worthless. Oh, you're no good. You're going to die and go to hell. Well, you didn't like it when somebody told you you're dying and going to hell and you're worthless. But if all the people around you are like, well, it's true. Fess up. You're worthless. Get out of here. Right there as the Bible tells you, Jesus said you can't get to heaven if you're an idolater. And you're an idolater. You can't get to heaven if you're a murderer or a liar or a glutton. See, it's well, there you go. I can't. It's right there in black and white. If I'm a glutton, I'm not going to heaven. So what do? Well, you're defeated. You walk away. You go, okay, let's go off and eat worms and die. I don't know. Well, what happens? You begin to hate yourself. You begin to hate others. Then you project your hate and loathsome feelings about yourself onto others. You're mad. You somewhere deep down in your soul, this ain't fair. You're no worse than anybody else. What makes you think you're so much better? Well, okay, we haven't discussed that part yet. Yeah, I know I'm bad, but what about you? Now we got to decide, okay, if everybody's bad, then what? We're all going to die and go to hell. Okay, it's right there in the Bible, but now what? We're all going to die and go to hell. There's got to be some explanation. You know what? There is, and it's a philosophical, deep truth that humans aren't going to always be perfect. We're always learning. And that's how we improve. And so it's like if we lived in a place where it's 70 and we never, it's paradise, we didn't have to do anything, we'd get bored. All right, so if we lived in a place where we were all perfect, everybody was perfect, nobody was better than anybody, and when there was no sin, there'd be no progression, there'd be no adventure. We wouldn't learn anything because we obviously know everything. Everybody would know everything. There's a place like that, but it's called the divine being. And it's within your very center. It's a place of unapproachable light. Yeah, there's a consciousness of reality. There's an absolute eternal being, an immortal being within you. But the outer conscious life that you live is temporary, and you get to enjoy and do and make mistakes, thank goodness. But don't worry, you're immortal. But you're not going to live in that perfection because you want the adventure. So, yeah, we start to understand that Jesus did introduce something else into the equation. It's called forgiveness. It's called learning, growing. Don't judge your neighbor. We're on a path. We're going to reach the prize. And so, okay, we're not going to get into that today, but that was just another interesting segue into what we're about to say. So I want you to understand the spiritual truth here. I want you to say, okay, I know I've been thinking this is the truth. Of course we can't sin. But now I see that people do sin. There is a reality I must accept. And then we begin to realize, if we think about why then is this reality in existence that we don't like, then we begin to say, oh, there is a purpose for it. In fact, the purpose is glorious. It's glorious that we can make mistakes, because then we can learn and grow and become better and achieve higher states of consciousness. Because we now know through experience, because we experience the evil, we experience the bad. And we're going to get into that real deep by going right straight to the scriptures in Genesis chapter 1 with the knowledge of good and evil here in just a second. But I'm hoping that this approach that I have today will cause a bunch of you who had the opinion that I did for many years to stop and pause and think about what I'm saying and not just reject it out of hand. Okay, so instead of just giving you all the verses and telling you what I think, I want you to think philosophically about this first. And I thought about how to do that. And I've got a couple of things I want to do. I want to take you back to Genesis, as I said. But to start, I was thinking that most of you who are going to have the opinion that I had for some time and now I'm realizing is wrong, most of you then would believe you would be kind of a new age type person, give or take, right? You'd be kind of somebody who believes in all of love, and you wouldn't be one of those kind of people that believe in the law. So that's why you probably watch my videos, because I don't believe in the law, and that philosophical thing appealed to you. You were probably a vegetarian. You're probably a person who loves everybody and doesn't judge people and that kind of thing. You don't go to war. You don't believe in war. You believe in peace. And you have these thoughts. So what better way to appeal to somebody like yourself, like myself, because that's where I was, than to show you a verse in the book of Thomas, the sayings of Jesus in the book of Thomas. Because that's a very spiritual book. So therefore we're not going at it to start with. We're not going to go at it from the biblical text as it's been received today with the 66 books that most, Protestants or fundamental Christians would say, I've got to see it from the Bible. We're going to show it to you from the Bible. And I could have gone that route. But some of you more spiritual individuals, some of you don't even think the Bible is perfectly accurately translated, and there are other scriptures, as I believe, there are other scriptures, and that I believe fit harmoniously with the Bible we have. I don't believe that the Bible we have is wrong. I just think it fits harmoniously with the other teachings that they didn't let us have, like the sayings of Jesus in the book of Thomas or Philip or Mary Magdalene. The Nag Hammadi Library. So for those of you who believe in the Gospels, all of them, and all of the ancient writings and astrology and everything else, I want you to read one of your verses, one verse that you have accepted, and I want you to think about what it's saying. In the Gospel of Thomas, saying 7, it says this, and I've got several translations here. Blatt, Leighton, Dorsey, I guess a few of them. So we'll read each of their translations just to make sure we know what we're saying here. It says, Jesus said, "Blessed is the lion which a man eats, and the lion will become a man. Cursed is the man whom the lion eats, and the lion will become a man." Well, that's almost incomprehensible. From a point of view of somebody who's like a fundamental Christian, it makes no sense whatsoever. But to a New Age type Christian or someone who believes in that kind of point of view, it makes a little bit more sense, but you still really don't know what it means, do you? Some of you may say, oh, well, maybe it has something to do with reincarnation, or oh, maybe it has to do with harmonizing the nature of the lying within ourselves, or what, but we really don't know what it fully means, and nor do we know the implications of some of the things that we might get out of it. Let's read the other. I like this Leighton translation. Jesus said, "Blessed is the lion that the human being will devour, so that the lion becomes human." I mean, first of all, we got all these questions. How does the lion become human? Well, maybe it's reincarnation. Okay, so maybe that's what it means by the man eating the lion, because if the lion dies, he'll advance one day in a higher, progression, and one day he'll become a man. So that's a blessed thing. So maybe we should eat lions. Maybe eye for an eye is good. Maybe the advanced, because obviously if the lion is ravenous and carnivorous in this analogy, then the man must be higher than the lion, like a person who can reason, a man being a loving creature, compassionate, right? A human that made the right choice. Because after all, the lion's being blessed. If somebody's going to be blessed in this arrangement, it's probably due to some kind of correct thinking. I mean, even though it doesn't say the human is blessed, at least somebody's getting blessed, right? So something good had to have happened here. But the man devours the lion. How can that cause any kind of blessing. I mean, even philosophically, or even physically. Like, we take this literally and say, oh, a man, a compassionate, smart, reasonable person of a higher nature than animalistic, but a human, right? If he decides to go and kill a lion and eat it and devour it, somehow or another the lion is blessed? Well, yeah, immediately the only thing my mind can think is, okay, well, the lion dies, but hey, he might come back as a monkey or, caveman and eventually become a man, right? Is that how he's going to become a man? Because it says the lion becomes human. Well, another thought that comes to my mind is that the lion, if we eat them, we assimilate the lion into our own nature or our own physical body. We're taking the proteins and the fat and all the molecules and everything, and somehow through digestion, we assimilate all this into our own body. So in a sense, in a literal, very literal sense, the lion becomes a man. But what if it's talking about the lion nature within us, our carnivore nature, our animalistic being? And the man is the part of us, that spiritual nature. What if our spiritual nature was to devour the carnal nature? In other words, there's no more carnal nature. Well, okay, we'd be blessed because we are now no longer carnal. We've gotten rid of this carnal nature within us. But how is that lion now blessed? Well, because that's the purpose of the lion. To be no more. He can't be blessed unless he still exists. So now the lion becomes the man. You see, not only physically by digestion, but if we get rid of the lion nature by letting go of the lower ego, now the real me, the real lion, who really always was a man, because that's his potential, now he's alive, now he's blessed. I think that's the meaning of the verse. But you still got to think about what that's insinuating. Spiritually, how do I get rid of my lion nature? Well, meditation and prayer and all that. Okay, great. Giving, loving people. But ultimately, it means that lion in the physical world, the actual lion, eventually got to die to advance. Right? There's a long plan here. And the human being is reason and love and compassion probably doesn't mean that a man doesn't actually get rid of bad things, like there's a snake in your house, right? I mean, if you got a lion disposition, you got to get rid of it. I'm sorry. Can't feel sorry for it because you don't want it to exist. You want it to become something better. So this is not a blanket, teaching necessarily that we should not eat lions. It's really about a spiritual lion, David. It's the carnal self. Yeah, but it works both ways. When lions die, they die for a reason because they're advancing. They're blessed. So there's a deep meaning here. But obviously, that couldn't be the meaning of this. Even though it may be true. Like I said, everything in the Bible says is true, or any scripture is true on so many levels. It has to be true on every level, or it can't be true on any level, in my opinion. So yeah, it is true that a lion will become a man by digestion. But that, I don't believe, is the point of this. And so then I start thinking about, well, the lion has a particular nature. It's carnivorous. So let's not forget that. So it's the lion's nature to eat the man. Isn't it? That would be his nature. The lion doesn't have this compassionate, reasonable, disposition, the higher nature. He's not going to sit there and say, no, wait a minute, there's a man. I'm hungry. I'm not going to eat. I'm starving, actually. And the man, standing right there, I can outrun the man. I can kill the man. I can eat the man. Well, he's not thinking that way, but, in a split second, he's thinking, yes, hormones, hungry. And he goes and he attacks the man because he's hungry. Okay. How is he blessed? He's going to die anyway. Because the lion, the nature of the lion is to eat others. They call it the dog eat dog, or the lion eat the lion, or the lion eat the man, and the man eats the lion, or whatever. Everything in this carnal, carnivorous, ravenous world, an eye for an eye and tooth for tooth, whoever lives by the sword will die by the sword. That lion's going to die if he eats the man. He's going to die because that's his nature. But if the lion is eaten by the man, then obviously the lion is no longer a lion. The lion's now become a man because the lion don't have that ravenous nature. Maybe we're talking about the lion inside of the man. Maybe, we've talked about this. We're ruled over by these carnal nature. That the beast became, or the man, the kings of the world became beast-like, carnivores, ravenous, with 10 horns and 7 heads. They killed everybody and murdered us and put us under law and accused us before our Father in heaven day and night. You're guilty. We got to put you in prison. We got to execute you. We got to kill you. That's the ravenous lying. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just the earthly way. My nature is to kill you. However, the lion can never be blessed that way. If the lion eats the man, then he stays a lion. Even if he dies, one day he still dies a lion. Ravenous, carnivorous, vicious, eye for an eye, cycle of rebirth. He'll come back as another lion. He can't get out of the cycle as long as he's a lion. So if the lion eats the man, he's still going to be cursed. But it doesn't ever curse. The lion always is blessed in both these situations that it's going to give you in this verse. And it never says anything about the man being blessed. It just says that the man could be cursed. And the last part of it, and cursed is the man that the lion devours. So if we're a man and we let the lion devour us, then we're cursed. Well, that makes sense because we're dead. Okay, in that sense. But what if we're just being polite? Well, I'm just too good for violence. I'm not going to fight back. And that lion, just stop it. Stop it. And the lion eats you. Well, that was stupid because you're going to die. And if you don't have enough reason or understanding to understand, if you get eaten, then he'll probably go after your kids too next. So that ain't very smart. So if a human being gets eaten by a lion, he's simply allowing this carnivorous nature to be carried out, and then everybody dies. And the lion dies and the man, right? And so the man is cursed. But it didn't say anything about the lion. The lion's already cursed. Because why? Because the only way a lion can be blessed if the human eats him. So in other words, we got to go by the prescribed path. And the higher species eats the lower species. And that's the only way this can be blessed. That's the only way we can get to the best solution. And this might take reason. You might have to understand that the lion has a carnivorous nature. Now, forget the fact that it's nature, lions, cute little animals. Oh, I could never kill an animal. That's just not my nature. I'm a good person. I don't kill and all of this. Well, you're going to die. Because if you don't get rid of the threat, if you stand there and whimper and you don't build a home for your family and protect yourself, how about feed yourself? Right? Because you're going to die. We're living in a world that's mortal. You're going to get cold. You're going to need a lion skin to wrap yourself in, a blanket. You're going to need food. And so this is why the eye for the eye, because if you consume the flesh, you have a temporary life. If you don't consume the flesh, you don't have life temporarily or in any way. Of course, we all go back to the paradise where we're perfect and we're immortal and we don't even have to eat. But in this world, in this little game we're playing, we better figure it out. There's a plan. It's not our plan. The plan is the lion, the ravenous, is trying to kill you. And it's inside you. And unless you devour it, the man cannot be blessed. If you just let the lion take over and become one so that you are a carnivore, so that you become ravenous in your entire being, if the lion wins, then the whole human is a lion because the man's consumed. But now if the man consumes the lion, now the lion is blessed because he's part of the human and he's advanced, and the human is still alive and he advanced even more. We're going by the proper arrangement. We're learning by the things we suffer, and through the learning we're advancing. But if we stay a lion, if we let the lion eat us, we go backwards and we go downwards in the scale, because we're supposed to advance from fish to birds to mammals to men and then to deities. Become glorious beings and live forever and never die again. But if we start going backwards, if now we're going to go and become a lion, and one way we could take that is that if we eat the lion, then we become the lion. We become the lion not just because we ate the lion and we assimilated into ourselves, but we became just like the lion. We were carnivorous. And so if the lion eats us, that's his nature to start with. He's only moving up. But if we already in a higher position go back and start eating lions, evidently we're not carnivores. Lions are carnivores and we're not. So we go back and we eat the lion. Now we are the ones cursed. Oh no, that's not actually what it says. It doesn't say that the man shouldn't eat the lion. It says if the man eats the lion, actually the lion is blessed. So we're just causing blessings by eating the lion. But the man is cursed if we get eaten by the lion. Huh? So how do we not get eaten by the lion, whether it's a spiritual nature within us or a physical lying in nature? Our nature or nature itself. Because it says, cursed is the human being that the lion devours. Because the lion will become a human. But blessed is the lion that the human being will devour. Well, it doesn't say, okay, so the lion is blessed if we devour it. But it doesn't say the human is blessed. It says that the human is cursed if the lion eats us. Well, how are we going to make sure the lion doesn't eat us if we don't eat the lion? It never tells us that in this parable. It just says that lions will, if the human being eats it, they'll just get better. So they don't care what we do. Their goal is they're going to eventually be blessed because they're going to get eaten at some point because you live by the sword, you die by the sword. They're carnivores. They're going to eventually get eaten themselves, but they're just going to get blessed down the road. But human beings should not devour lions. That's going backwards. That's retrograde. We're higher than the lion. If we do that, then we're going to be cursed. But where's the verse that explains how the man will be blessed? Oh, that's in the first line. Blessed is the lion that the human being will devour. We're the lion and the man, and if our higher self gets rid of the lower self, then our lower self moves up, and that's our self, the potential of our lion nature. And basically, we're all blessed. We're all blessed if the man devours the lion. We're all going to be, the lion's blessed, but so is the human, really. I mean, come on, if the lion's going to get a blessing out of us eating it, then obviously we're all getting blessed. Because anytime you give someone a blessing, that blessing comes back on yourself. So, yeah, it does tell you how the human is blessed. The human is blessed not by being a carnivore. It never says the human is cursed by eating the lion. It just says the lion is blessed. The way the human is cursed is if the lion devours us. So if the human, being higher and intelligent and reasonable, eats the lion, he blesses the lion. That's what we should do. but with reason, with knowledge, knowing what we're doing. But if we get eaten by the lion, then we are cursed, simply because we didn't have any common sense and we didn't think the thing through. But as a human, we got to protect our family, we got to eat, and we use reason. And we know that when we eat the lion, we're blessing the lion, and thereby blessing ourselves. Is that how it's supposed to be understood? It's very difficult. It's like catch-22. It's very difficult because nowhere in that verse does it say anything about the lion being cursed. No matter what the lion does, he's always getting blessed, whether he's eaten or being eaten. But the human, it's cursed if the lion devours it. So we better not get devoured by the lion. So now how do we do that? Well, again, this is probably talking about our own lion carnivorous nature. We don't want it to prosper. We want it to go away. We want to devour the lion. The only question is, does that principle transfer into the physical reality? Are we better off if we kill animals that are there to try and kill us? We kill them first. Well, principles are always uniform. We've talked about this many times. If Jesus gives a parable about planting a seed, and the kingdom is like planting a seed, then what he's trying to teach us spiritually is got to be true in the analogy as well. The seed's got to die in order to be born. You plant the seed, it grows up, it makes something bigger. We have to have faith, or whatever the parable is, but it works both ways, in the physical and in the spiritual. So here, the human being cannot allow the lion to devour him. And he will bless the lion by eating him. If that's a spiritual axiom, it also must be true in the literal world. Because humans aren't ignorant and stupid. They're reasonable and they have intelligence. They're philosophical and they understand that the world we live in is only a school, a classroom. We're not doing evil to the lion by killing it. We're blessing it. So we have to take the spiritual. The lion represents the nature within you. That the man nature within you, or the higher nature, or the divine nature, must consume. But think about it. Why does it have to be in this analogy that we consume the lion? Why couldn't he have used another illustration? Because that sounds all, like why are we going to be carnivorous and eat a lion and somehow that's going to advance us and the lion? Unless this verse is trying to teach us an eternal truth. Don't be puffed up with pride and try to do it your way. You may not understand why nature and the world and the universe works the way it does, but it's a plan, the plan of the Lord. And even reincarnation, paying for your error, coming back into judgment, is going to be a learning experience, and you're going to advance through it. Death, then, is good. And this is why the Apostle Paul says, in the Garden of Eden, we ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and therefore we died in order that we might live. And we may not like that, and a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are like, no, you should not ever partake of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Why, the serpent was evil. Oh, he wasn't wise. He wasn't wise, he wasn't enlightening, and that tree wasn't enlightenment. You don't need enlightenment because you'll never become like God. All right, well, let me ask you something, Mr. Jehovah's Witness, Mr. Fundamental Protestant, Bible-pounding Christian who just goes by what it says literally, and therefore, if the Lord said don't eat from the tree, we should never have eaten from it. Okay, put yourself in Adam and Eve's position. You're in the garden, and there's two trees. One of the trees is eternal life. What if you never ate from the tree of eternal life? Guess what? You would never have eternal life. You eat from the tree of life, and you have life. Jesus offered us the tree of life. Do you think that was just, oh, well, I think I'll go down there and offer these people life, because after all, this other deity has condemned them to death, so I'll just go down there and offer them life just for no reason. No, because we're his brothers. He loves us. Out of love, he did it. And he forgave us. Why? Because we're his children. And he says, come. And he wept. And he says, please, I love you. All the children are hungry. Feed them. All the lame. He loved. He had compassion. And he didn't say, now listen, you do this, that, and the other thing, and maybe I'll give you some life. I'll reward you with a long life. That's what Yahweh did. Long life. Make you a king or a ruler. But Jesus didn't do that. When people were seeking higher positions, he said, don't do that. You sit down here in the little seat. Don't glorify yourself. Let your leader be your servant. I'm washing your feet. You should wash everyone's feet. Everyone's equal. Don't judge one another. I love everybody. It's free gift. What? It's a whole other philosophy that some of you can't understand. Okay, and now we got another philosophy that some of you other people can't understand. And that is that in this world, people die. Now, we're not under the law. Why? Because we're no part of this world. We've transferred into another kingdom. Why? Because we're not going to be part of this kingdom. We're not going to have blood. We're not going to be carnivores. We're not going to be lions. And the only way that lion's going to become advanced, to become a human, is to accept his role and get eaten. And let go of the ego. And trust in the higher plan. Now, if humans don't eat, they die. Well, I'm not going to eat. I will not kill an animal and eat an animal because that would be carnivorous and, well, funny thing is nowhere in the Bible does it say anything about that. Not one verse in the Bible says you shouldn't be a meat eater, you should be a vegetarian. Jesus gave them fish, and then Paul says those who eat just vegetables are weak. Weak meaning sick among you. But now we're back to this whole philosophical point that, okay, well, we don't want to be carnivores. We don't want to eat. We don't want to eat meat. That's murder. I could never do that, Dave. I'm a spiritual person. Okay. But the lion is going to be blessed if the human being will devour him. It's just a lot. It's a concept that the lion's got to die in order to live. He's got to learn. He's got to grow. He's going to be a lion for a while and experience this carnivorous nature. It's part of his existence. He's going to learn from it. But he doesn't want to stay a lion forever. He wants to become like a man, and a man wants to become like God. So here you are in the garden, and some divine being, which Jesus says your father's a devil, he's a liar from the beginning, and you wish to do the desires of your father. And what's so bad about this? Well, he's a liar. Right? He says, I am God and there is none else. Right? But Jesus is like, you're gods and the scripture cannot be broken. So there's like two philosophies here. Yahweh's making a claim. In the day in which you eat of this tree, you will die. That was true. That was true. Paul says that which is made alive is not made alive unless first it dies. A bare seed, a grain or a seed, it may be. And unless it's put into the earth, that little seed, and dies, begins to deteriorate and open up the carnal shell so that inner little DNA can blossom and grow and be born. Without the death of that outer shell, that which is inside, the seed, the living principle that is immortal. It was living all along, but it was trapped inside this thing, this husk. It's got to die first. You got to get rid of the physical first. The lion's got to go. The carnivore's got to go. And he doesn't mind dying. Well, he might not even know it at the time. But the Lord loves him so much that he allows him to die so that he can be reborn as an eagle. So, if you took and you obeyed Yahweh, who said, don't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you'd never become like God, knowing for yourself anything. And the funny funny thing is, Jesus said that this means eternal life. This is how you get eternal life. By knowing. By gnosis. By experiencing the difference. To learn the difference between good and evil. To partake of gnosis. So according to Jesus, it's very necessary that you could just obey Yahweh and just say, okay, Yahweh says we all got to die. We're not allowed to have life and we can't have knowledge. And so, all right, it's actually moral, right? To follow the Lord and obey and just do what everybody tells us to do. Right? Well, you're not worthy. You go and die somewhere. Go on now. Go, skedaddle. Let's go. Bye-bye. I'll be the arbitrator of your life. I'll give you a little life. Maybe when I decide to kill you, I'll just kill you. Because I'm God, right? And you're not. Now, will you settle for that? Adam and Eve didn't, or at least Eve didn't. She convinced her husband, too. But Eve, which is a representation of something, right? The conscious mind. And Adam was that part of the man, because they were separated, right? They're one flesh. And the man was that spiritual part. Well, the man was not deceived, according to the Apostle Paul. He was not deceived, because that's the spiritual part, the higher consciousness. He knew. It was the lower consciousness that got deceived. Uh-oh, she's bad. No, it's the nature of the lower consciousness to not know. That's why it's lower. It's going to be in the delusion. It wants to be there. It wants to learn. And that carnal nature in the seed or in the serpent or in the little pollywog, right? In the DNA, that divine wisdom, it's down in every seed, in every shell, in every piece of dirt. Everything in the universe knows deep down within it that it must grow. It must die in order to live. And it whispered the DNA, the instinct, the lower serpent nature, the kundalini, the wisdom of that eternal blueprint. And it's not like it didn't ever exist. There was no plan. Somebody drew up a plan, or some deity with a big beard, and he's like, oh, let's write some plans. And we'll write this plan on every little center of every cell. And it's like a little code, and it's like computers, and it carries out the plan. So it's not really very wise, because somebody made the plan. That's what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches it's the woman, or it's the flesh and spirit. They're both necessary. There's the spirit and the flesh. And the spirit comes into the flesh to have experience. The spirit doesn't want to be all alone. It wants to be married. It wants to have the orgasm. It wants to do the nasty. Just once, right? Because, what would that be like? Oh, man, I got to just touch it. Don't even touch the fruit, lest you die. Well, remember the woman who had the flow of blood? 12 years. That's an interesting time. And there's 12, houses, and it's the complete cycle. So she had gone through this complete cycle of the age. She was this woman. This was Eve. And she was cursed. Because Yahweh cursed her. And there she was with the curse, the flow of blood. Which is what? If she hadn't been cursed, she didn't have the flow of blood, she would not be able to have children. And it's the destruction of the flesh, or the serpent, the crushing his head, is through the seed of the woman. And the woman could never have had a seed. She could never have defeated the lower nature and gotten higher if she hadn't participated, if she didn't partake of the knowledge. And here she was, this flow of blood, 12 years, the whole cycle, and she finds the higher self, the Christ, her husband. And she says, if I could just touch him, I'd be well. Because they had been separated for ages, the spirit and the flesh. You're a sinner, and the woman was cursed, and they were going to stone her. Oh, you terrible woman. But she knew, if I could just touch him, just his outer garment, the fringe of his outer garment. You don't have to embrace him. You don't even have to have carnal relations. You didn't have to kiss him. You didn't have to wash his feet. All you got to do is touch him. Just the outer fringe. Once the contact is made, they become one. And that woman who was cursed became whole. And when you're whole, what are you? You're one with your man. The two become one. That woman became whole. That woman was Mary Magdalene. That woman is the whole reason that we're here. She was the one initiated into the world and made the decision because of her nature. The lion has a nature, and you can't do anything about that. The man has a nature, right? And the woman, it represents some particular part of this whole thing. And it was her nature to be deceived. That's what we want. We want to not know. We want the mystery. And this is the mystery. That a man shall lay down his life for his wife. That a man shall leave his father and his mother and stick unto his wife, and the two will be one. It's a grand mystery. It's the mystery of the ages. And so, yes, it might have been a commandment. Don't eat from that tree. But without eating it, you're not going to become like the divine being. And Jesus said, that's what it means to have eternal life. We have to learn and grow and partake. So, there's a lot of paradoxes, and there's a lot of deep things that we've got to come to grips with. As a spiritual person, then, it might not be just so black and white. Well, I'll never eat meat, Dave. That's just gross. I would never kill. Okay. Well, when we were immortal, we didn't kill. But now that you're mortal and you're dying, all right. Don't do anything ever that's wrong, right? Maybe eating plants. Maybe, there's people that believe that plants are trying to survive. That's why they have lectins and polyphenols and cannabinoids. It's killing you. Why? It'll kill you. It's chemicals. Don't eat it. And the life of the plant's trying to get you, they're trying to survive. So they're poisoning you so that you can't survive if you eat them. The lion will attack you if you try to kill him. He don't want to die. But you kill the lion, you trap him, you do something, you sneak up on him and pop him in the head, right? Oh, that's terrible. Well, okay. Because he don't want you to live. He's trying to protect himself. Same with plants. For thousands of years, they've been saying, don't eat us. Because we want to survive. Well, that's crazy. Well, why do a thicket of bramble, why do they have thorns? So that people don't go in there and take all their berries. Guess what? It's a gift. Because those berries aren't meant for you. It's going to be difficult for you to get those berries out of there. Okay? Anything that's a treat, it's going to be worth it, but you're going to have to go through some pain to get it, right? But, so, yeah, maybe the plants don't want you to eat them, and they don't want you to get their berries, so they got thorns, and maybe they'll even have stinging nettle, but you will risk it and get pricked and poked and maybe get a rash just because you will risk it because you like the pleasure of the berry. And you want to bring it home to mama or your wife so they can have, you can make a pie and they can all just celebrate for all the hard work we've done. There's a lot of paradoxes, guys, a lot of things. But what we need to understand is there some truth that we have not been told? If the Bible teaches that we shouldn't eat meat, why doesn't it say we shouldn't eat fish? Why doesn't it say that we shouldn't eat plants? Why didn't the Lord just make it so we didn't have to kill anything? There are religions like the Sikhs. They're, I think, like the most ancient religion in the world. Sikhism is a religion, and they're called the Sikh. And they were before like Brahmanism. I mean, this is an ancient religion, and their primary belief is no murder, no kill anything, not just dogs or animals or humans. They won't kill an ant. Now think about that. If you really want to be so moral, and you think that if you've done anything immoral, I mean, you can't kill and eat animals. Well, that's disgusting. Well, how about stepping on an ant or swatting a fly? What if a mosquito lands on your arm? Do you kill it? Well, they deserve to live too. No, they're little grimy things. You can kill them. How about snakes? Snake comes in your house. You go get an exterminator? How about a rat? You gonna let him poop in your food in your cupboards and overrun your house, or are you gonna kill him? Maybe it is a dog-eat-dog world, isn't it? But this particular religion, they believe that they are above all of this because they don't want to live in this world. They don't like this world. You see, that's what a lot of you are basically thinking. You're thinking, well, this is a bad world. We want to leave this world. We can't stand all the pain and murder. So I'll never eat meat again. Well, okay, let's carry it further. How righteous are you? Don't ever step on an ant. Well, I don't. If I can help it, okay. But how careful are you that you don't step on an ant? When you're driving down the road 60 miles an hour in your car and you run over a rabbit, oh, well, that's just, I couldn't help it. Well, yeah, you could stop driving. You see, how moral do you want to be? Now, I don't want to try and convince you that way, but I'm putting it out there philosophically because I want you to start thinking philosophically about this and not just as though it's black and white. That's the only way you're ever going to even open your mind to think about these philosophy, this paradox of life and death. After all, if it's true that nothing ever dies, then why not go back to the ancient religion? Because you know that there is a religion that's probably even more ancient than the Sikhs. Yeah, there were natives that lived in this country, very ancient, that went and hunted buffalo every year. And when they did so, they prayed to the Great Spirit and Mother Earth, and they gave thanks. They accepted it as part of life, and they taught their children the ritual of life and death. You see, humans today, we're like, we don't eat anything bad, we don't do anything bad, but then we're always doing everything bad. And the worst part is we're not teaching our children what death is and why there is death as a stepping stone to life. We don't teach them the meaning of anything. And if your concept is just that we're all above all of that, I would never kill. It's wrong. Well, then when somebody's coming and busting into your home and they're not just going to bust in, and take something. Well, I'll just give it to them then. Oh, I don't care. Turn the other cheek. Okay, but they're going to come in and they might take your little kid and abuse them or steal them and take them and they would torture them somewhere in some commune or what are you going to do? Just let them do it? Rape your wife in front of you and go, oh, don't worry about it. I'm not allowed to do anything against what you're doing there. I can't stop you because, I got to turn the other cheek. Well, that's what Jesus said, turn the other cheek. But then I shared with you the other day that Jesus said, the only reason I'm not going to have an army and stop you from killing me is that I want to go home. This isn't my world. This is no part of my world. I only came here to tell you guys that in this world, we have to pay the price. And I'm going to go to the cross and bear it. And you're all going to have to go to the cross. Take it up and follow me. Let's get out of the world. Just accept it. Let go of your lion. Devour him. Let him go. Don't worry, he'll become a man one day. Use your wisdom. Teach your children what death is about. I'm going to the cross because doesn't really matter. I'm immortal. Now I've been talking a long time, and I guess we're about getting to the end of this video, and I really haven't shown you anything in the Bible or talked about health or nutrition at all. And I wanted to do that, but the Holy Spirit led us on this path. Just a lot of talking. So evidently, we're going to have to do this in a two-part series. And I'm going to share with you all the verses in the Bible that clearly teach us what we're expected to do and what we're supposed to eat. And I'm not going to take you to the Old Testament and tell you what Yahweh said. Don't eat pork and do this and do that and don't do this. That's not what I'm talking about. I want to go back to the garden, and I want to go back to all the things that was ever said by all the prophets, and then come down to Jesus and what he said to the apostles. But now we can do that. Now we can just take a look at the facts. Not only that, I want to share with you some genetic reality, some scientific information about what our bodies need to live and be healthy, that I hope and I know you will see is irrefutable. A lot of you think, well, yes, everybody has an opinion. I'm a paleo diet and you're a keto and you're, a juicer and a vegetarian or vegan. I'll tell you right now, before we even close, I'll let you know something right now, point blank. If you're a vegan, you won't live very long at all. The worst thing a human being can do is have sugar and nothing but sugar and carbs and vegetables and fruits. That's all you eat. And no animal fat. You will die very quickly. You may not even know it. You might do this for like 5-10 years and you're like, oh, I'm always sick, I'm thin, I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like I'm allergic to everything. I'm not happy. I'm mentally ill. I'm deteriorating. But I'm going to continue on with my belief, that nasty milk. We're not supposed to drink milk because somebody told me, oh, it's just wrong to drink cow's milk. Okay. Why did Jesus say that eggs were a perfect food? Why are we going to the land of milk and honey? Why do cows have these big udders that continue to produce milk even after the calf is weaned? And humans go and they have a farm and they go, oh, these are my chickens and they make eggs and oh, that's a wonderful perfect food. An absolute perfect balanced diet with cholesterol and protein. No sugar. And oh, look at this milk and we can make cheese. Oh, that darn cheese, that's terrible. Well, it's a part of a staple of human beings for thousands of years. They made cheese, buttermilk, and butter. And they put the milk in their bread and mixed it up, and they put the milk in their cereal. It's been something we've done for thousands of years. Millions. Some of you think, oh, well, I've got an idea that for millions of years, people ate just vegetables. What? It's not true. They ate what they didn't. First of all, if they weren't as advanced as us, they wouldn't have had the Bible even a million years ago. So it's not like they had a rule book, right? Oh, they just lived and you set a baby down and right after it's weaned and the first thing you introduce to that baby is a vegetable and they're like, ew, spit it out. You got to train a kid to have some desire to eat these vegetables. They can't stand them. But they like milk. They love eggs and meat. Well, I'm going to leave it there and ask you guys that you will have an open mind and watch the entire video that I'm going to do tomorrow, which is going to give and lay out every idea as to what we were intended to eat while we're on this earth, why we're supposed to do it, as well as the scientific evidence that I have now become privy to and have finally been able to reconcile with myself, not because I decided one day, yeah, maybe I should go back out and eat animals, but because I was dying. Friends, I'm going to give you a testimony, just like I always do with things that I know. There are things I don't know. But there is one thing I absolutely know. I was dying after 15 years as a vegetarian. And I will explain why I was dying and what's happened recently to me and how I prayed and asked the Lord for help and the revelation that I received. And I am going to share with you every piece of information that I can fully so that we can understand what we're supposed to be doing here. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. I hope you guys have a really wonderful evening. May the Lord bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.